Hello everyone, my name is Steve Sibbett and this is my capstone project presentation. As you can see on the first slide, the title of my project is called Moral High Ground, Assessing the Importance of Morality in Social Exchange. However, I must put out a disclaimer. This project is not about assessing the negative connotation behind the term moral high ground, where a person believes their sense of morality is more important than someone else's, or that theirs is the only concept that appropriates morality in social interactions. I appreciate you getting this far into my presentation, and without further ado, let's dive right in. The idea behind my project and the research I set out to accomplish was to gauge the level of importance and awareness morality plays in social interactions and exchanges, whether it's with loved ones, friends, general social groups, maybe clubs and hobbies, or coworkers and business transactions. I wanted to see how people interpret their interactions and whether their concept of morality, whether they're conscious or it's subconscious to them, does in fact affect the engagements they're willing to partake in or the outcomes they desire from interactions. I wanted to investigate things that I didn't have any prior knowledge of. Obviously, we've taken sociology classes and things of the nature, but I wanted to put these two concepts together, so I decided to compare and combine morality with social interaction, and that's kind of the basis for why I chose to go this route. I chose to investigate my peers, or the majority of my peers, where I work at a alternative placement high school in my community. So that put my demographic at probably around 35 and up for the most part. That includes, I would assume, enough life experience to have developed whatever their form of morality is, and therefore have them be able to make objective decisions about their morality and the role it plays in their social lives. I like the definition of true morality, where it's defined as doing what is right without the threat of divine retribution or divine reward. I did investigate the religious aspects of morality in this project, but more of morality being evaluated against social norms is where I directed my research. I do believe that humans can act morally outside the confines of religion. How somebody conducts themselves in everyday social interactions is the generic idea of morality I wanted to study. This definition does well, though, in my opinion, of explaining what I thought morality would turn out to be as I continued to do my research. Doing the right thing when no one is looking or without the guarantee they'll receive any credit or acknowledgement for their actions is the idea of this definition that I appreciate. The problem, though, is that one's morality may be immoral to another's, and figuring out how to define that, or maybe find a coexistence between different layers of morality and different concepts of it, was a concern of mine, and that's where I wanted to start my research. So to understand the basis of morality better, I decided to study literature to find out if there was a consensus on what morality is, where it comes from, how it develops, and the role it plays in any potential layer of a person's social relations. The basis for my research revolved around 4 social theories that discuss why people do what they do in social interactions. I felt that the 4 theories that I used were close enough to be comparable, but had some distinctions in their principal philosophies that put them in their own category so that I could gauge fairly accurately what the outcomes of my survey would be. The 4 social theories that I decided to incorporate were moral foundation theory, social identity theory, social learning theory, and social exchange theory. I developed 10 questions for each of those theories, totaling 40 personal statements that I asked people to answer on a Likert scale between 1 and 4, with 1 being the least and 4 being the most, in terms of whether they disagree, being a 1 again, or strongly agree, being a 4. After I had developed the research survey, the style of it, I made an assumption that women would be more moral than men, and they would score higher on the moral foundation theory, which believes morality is the most important factor in social interactions. And I believe that men would rank lower, maybe even to the opposite, because of their tendency to feel protective of themselves and their family. And so I thought that they would find themselves answering statements with the mindset of a social exchange theory, again, for self preservation and more of a transactional observation of social interactions. What's the cost versus what's the benefit? That's the approach I felt men would find themselves taking. I started to create my survey in Microsoft Excel. It was just easier for me to organize my thoughts and opinions and start to metaphorically put pen to paper. As I said previously, I made 10 personal statements for each of the 4 social theories that I was going to utilize for my research. I did the best I could to decipher primary ideas and principles about each theory, that tried to separate them as best I could in the survey, and then laid it all out there with 10 personal statements, 1 through 10 being for moral foundation theory, the next 10 being for the next one, and so on until I had my 40. Then I used a function in Excel that combined 3 formulas, as you can see on the slide right here, and randomized the order so that there were no sequential phrases that represented the same social theory. Once I liked a result through the Excel function, I created a Google form, which was fairly easy, took about 10 minutes to get it to where I liked it. I asked for some additional information just for demographic purposes, name, gender, and age, but name primarily if they wanted their results to be returned back to them after I closed the survey off. That was the only reason, and I did specify that in the Google form. Google does allow you to attach a Google Sheet automatically to your Google form, so that every time somebody does submit a survey, the information that they put in and the decisions they made on the Likert scale between 1 and 4 automatically gets tracked to the Google Sheet, and everything gets recorded. I then took that data, put it back into Excel, and ran my analysis from there. The results came as I expected them to, but just not in the wide margin that it finished in. Moral foundation theory ran away from the competition. Of the 42 total responses, moral foundation theory topped the list 32 times. 27 times they were the exclusively top ranked pick and didn't share the top spot with another social theory. I thought that was pretty amazing. That 32 times out of 42 responses is more than 3/4 of the population sample that I was able to survey. Again, pretty amazing that 3 out of 4 respondents chose MFT above all other social theories. MFT also ranked highest for females at 83.33 and males at 70.83%. Females ranked 15 out of 18 and males ranked 17 out of 24 total surveyed. And also pretty considerable is that moral foundation theory ranked the lowest, with only 2 total surveyors picking MFT at the lowest, 1 male and 1 female. So moral foundation theory by far ran away from the competition. The opposite of that theory is social exchange theory, which is more about self-preservation and looking at relationships and interactions as like contractual cost-benefit analysis type scenarios. As I expected, it came in second place, but again, it was a blowaway. As you can see on this slide, 10 total times it placed second highest, 7 exclusive, 3 shared, and it also finished in a good spot on the lower side where it was only picked 10 times as the lowest rank, 6 exclusive, 4 shared, which puts it, just above MFT, as a good option on that side of it too. So the most interesting thing, however, was that social identity theory, which sits in the middle of those two, did not get a single high rank on that theory, and also had the worst combination, being chosen 21 times at a 50% clip for the sample population of being the worst social rank or social theory rank out of all of them. I know I'm being biased when I say that morality plays a very important role in social exchange. However, I do understand that people have different concepts of morality. I do think those concepts are important and bring much needed conversation to the table. There obviously are outliers where they think they're being moral, but the actions they take state otherwise to the vast majority. However, needless to say, everyone needs to have a shared sense of morality that aligns with each other more times than not, and we would have a successful society with fruitful outcomes. We just don't have that right now. I think a significant part of making a step in the right direction, or taking a step, I should say, in the right direction, is implementing moral and ethical teachings, maybe even philosophy, uh, as core curriculum in at least high school, where the next generation is going to be more prepared to navigate society with a logical and rational mindset, that people can come together even though their interests aren't shared and still be able to provide and help each other meet those goals. I probably suffered from the same usual suspects as everybody else, where we had a smaller sample size or a limited time and a compact schedule. I am not familiar with research design. This was a nice introduction, but we could have been more efficient with that. Time management on my part was really poor. I invested too much time in inconsequential aspects of the project and didn't really refine my paper per se until late in week 3, early week 4, which is pretty bad. But you can see some of the other ones that I thought were more personal to me was, I guess research design. I could have phrased my questions or personal statements a little bit differently, maybe had more knowledge of the social theories to try and create some separation with the search results, because as you guys already know at this point, moral foundation theory blew everybody else out of the water. So, while that may be indicative of where our society is, I'd like to run it back and see if I'd get similar results with better phrased statements. Um, and I think one of the other things to consider is that I might have had similar results because the majority of those surveyed and that did respond are my coworkers or recent coworkers from my prior position at a different location that are in very similar environments. So maybe the similarity in their work experience led them to answer similarly on this research survey. There are many directions I can go with my research, but I felt like the most important one I wanted to talk about here was the concept of moral intelligence, which is applicable, more than applicable, I should say, in this scenario with my research. But I didn't see it early on, so I wasn't privy to the idea or the concept, didn't know that it existed. And it wasn't something that I saw consistently in my literature review the later I got. And at some point, I just could not continue to adapt my paper, put myself behind the 8 ball, so I kind of had to omit this. But this is something that I felt was pretty important, and I'd like to look into it further. Um, you can see as the definition states that it measures one's ability to apply moral principles to social interactions. Again, I know it sounds odd that I didn't put it in there, but I wanted to deal with the core ideas of morality on a very generic level and morality's importance in social interactions. This to me makes it a deeper dive that I want to get into. I just couldn't get into it at this time. But for me, that is the most important direction I'd like to take my research um, when I move it forward on my own free time. I learned through this research project and my literature review that morality is something that seems pretty difficult to define because it can be as unique as the people that hold that idea of morality, and everyone's life experiences can be pretty different. Even siblings have different experiences in life, so their concept, even though they grew up in the same house, could be even diametrically opposed to each other. So pinning down what morality is was difficult. I'm sure there's some good resources out there that I couldn't find. Um, I also am taking an initial dive into this concept, so maybe the more I learn, the better I'll be able to refine what morality is, at least on a universal level. Um, but I kind of found that regardless of what morality was to any particular individual, it mattered in terms of social interactions. Whatever somebody's concept and development of morality was, did affect their choices and interactions and their desirable outcomes from those interactions. Who they chose to engage in handshakes with or not, and like again, who to avoid, was determined by their morality and whether that held strong in their willingness to partake in a social exchange with others. All in all, I had a good experience with this project, and I would like to continue learning more about these concepts and how they interplay and what their relationships are. Thank you for watching my little presentation on my capstone project. I hope everybody's gone well, and congratulations to everybody that graduates, and good luck in your future. Thank you.